Hello everyone and welcome back to Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. So today we're going to be reviewing the latest release from Jack Daniels and probably the most talked about release this year, the 2021 single barrel special release, the Coy Hill High Proof. Now I've been a huge fan of what Jack Daniels has done these last couple years, putting out their special release rye all the way down to their heritage and then all the way down to the single barrel proof bourbons that they produce year after year. So the Coy Hill single barrels were aged on the top ricks of the oldest barrel houses on Coy Hill, which is the highest hill that sits on the Jack Daniels property. So Jack Daniels master distiller Chris Fletcher stated that Coy Hill High Proof is all about pushing the limit of single barrel maturation to create one of the most boldest and innovative whiskeys they've ever created. All right, guys. So I first want to thank the team over at Jack Daniels for supplying me with this sample to review on the channel. Now this one comes in at 148.3 proof. That's right, 148.3 proof. The mash bill on this guy is 80% corn, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye. Now, I am beyond excited to try this guy. This is the first time that I poured it. I haven't nosed it. I haven't tasted it at all. So super excited to get into the review, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and get into the color on this one first. It is extremely dark, coffee dark. But there's like this really nice mahogany color to it. Really, really dark copper. Some mahogany in there. Nice reddish hue to it. Beautiful, beautiful color. Let's go ahead and get into the nose, guys. You know, surprisingly enough, for 148.3 proof, I don't get a lot of ethanol on the nose at all. It is just candied sweetness. There's definitely some oak presence in there a little bit further into the glass. Like a nice charred oak. A little bit of clove further in there too. Lot of baking spices. There's a lot of nutmeg, cinnamon. That clove is really in there though. A little bit of like maple syrup in there as well. Not very. It's not very potent. I mean, it's definitely like very faint, but it's definitely in there. Baking spices, charred oak. There's like this sweetness to it too, this like candied sweetness. Not picking up a lot of fruity notes on this one. Not picking up a lot of youth either. So the candy sweetness, that charred oak, a little bit of maple syrup. Some brown sugars a little bit further away from the glass, and that clove that pops up there into the glass a little bit more. Really, really nice nose, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the palate. Cheers. Wow. Okay. So, this does not drink like 148.3 proof at all. This is like maybe in the 125-ish range. It's still up there. You feel it going down, but it drinks so easy. Completely saturates the palate. Now there's flavors all over the place on this one. You do, like, one of the first things I picked up on the back end was a little bit of that charred oak that kind of went through the back end. Definitely spicy. A little bit of like pepper back there, maybe like a cayenne type flavored pepper. Not so much like black or white pepper. Like a cooking pepper almost. A cayenne. Definitely saturates the palate. Little bit of corn influence there on the middle of the palate into the finish. It is a high corn. It's an 80% corn. I do pick a little bit of the, maybe it's some of that sweetness that I picked up on the palate. Very, very tasty first sip, guys. Let's go and get the second one. Oh my God. It drinks so easy. So the first and second sip initially kind of dried you out for a second, but then a lot of those spices that are coming off of that charred oak really get the mouth watered. And that charred oak right onto the finish. So not a ton of sweetness for me on the front and middle. You get some pipe tobacco in there on the middle of the palate into the finish with that charred oak. There is a little bit of like brown sugar maybe on the front of the palate. But then there's this beautiful toffee note that just really goes from the front all the way into the finish, mixing with some of those baking spices. That charred oak kind of goes down. It definitely saturates the palate though. Again, it does, you know, that first and second sip definitely dried you out a little bit. But then your mouth just starts to water. Some of that high proof maybe kicking in onto the palate, getting those juices flowing. Man, I tell you, this is freaking unbelievable here. You talk about a flavor bomb. I mean, this is all over the place. You know, the first and the second sip were completely different. Picking up some of the, you know, some similar notes, but starting to pick up a little bit more and more with each sip as my palate gets acclimated to it. Let's get into the last sip, guys. Cheers. Oh, man. So still, even after that third sip, don't get me wrong, it's definitely hot, but it's not 148 proof hot. This really drinks like it's 125 proof. But the way it saturates the palate, it just sits on the tongue, and the finish just lingers and lingers and lingers on. Get not a lot of candy sweetness on this one, but the flavors are bold and they're savory, and it just sits on my tongue all the way into the finish. Long, lingering finish. Probably one of the longest finishes I've probably ever had. Again, that toffee, there's like this toffee sweetness that goes from the front all the way to the back of the palate. That charred oak. That charred oak still kind of lingering on that finish. A little bit of leather there from the middle of the palate into the back. A little bit of tobacco, some sweet like pipe tobacco, middle of the palate all the way into the back. Not getting any of that maple syrup so much on the palate like I did the nose. But yeah, it just sits. It sits. I still pick up those flavors just all around the palate. I tell you, man, this is something to talk about right here. Get this last little bit. Yeah, I mean, again, that toffee sweetness, front of the back. A lot of baking spices going on in there, kind of across the middle of the palate. But then there's that like sweet pipe tobacco mixed with that leather kind of in the middle of the palate going into the back. And then that charred oak. That charred oak going down into the finish. Long, lingering finish. Absolute killer. Killer of a dram right here. Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely fantastic. All right, guys. So my overall thoughts on this one. It's a must buy. Retails for $79.99. This is a steal at that price. You cannot go wrong with this. Again, they are single barrel releases, so they're gonna vary per barrel. This one seemed to be a little bit more on the darker side. Seems that there was maybe a little bit more age. Could have been that it was stored all the way to the top ricks of Coy Hill. A lot of barrel influence on this one. Again, picking up some of that pipe tobacco, some of that leather, toffee, sweetness, that charred oak going into the long lingering finish. Again, overall thoughts, this is an absolute hitter of a release from Jack Daniels. So I do want to thank the team over at Jack Daniels again for supplying me with this bottle to review on the channel. So guys, if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You can also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And until next time, guys, stay dusty.